Here's something every serious student of European history knows, but rarely applies today. Victorians survived brutal winters indoors long before thermostats, and they did it with discipline, design, and method. If you value forgotten knowledge and practical history, subscribe to Warpaths of Europe, like this video, and leave a comment with the era you want us to cover next. Now, let's get straight to the material. The Victorian layering system turned rooms into controlled microclimates. Victorian homes were not heated evenly. Warmth was concentrated where people actually lived. Heavy wool rugs were layered wall to wall, often stacked over straw-backed underlays that trapped air. Curtains were not decoration, but insulation, pulled closed even during the day in winter. You can apply this today by isolating one room, layering dense rugs, and using thick curtains to cut radiant heat loss from walls and windows. Fireplaces were managed for heat retention, not appearance. Victorians closed flues tightly when fires were low and used cast-iron firebacks to reflect heat back into the room. Ash beds were left overnight because ash retains warmth longer than bare stone. In practical terms, a modern fireplace or stove can be used more efficiently by retaining thermal mass and minimizing airflow once heat is established. Door snakes and draft blockers were precision tools, not improvisations. Draft excluders were standard household items, often sewn from wool scraps and filled with sand or grain husks. Doors were sealed tightly because uncontrolled airflow was the enemy of warmth. Today, a simple weighted draft stopper at doors and floor-level gaps can raise perceived room temperature without touching a heater. Bed warming, was actually treated as a whole system rather than just a single object. The Victorians relied on hot bricks wrapped in cloth copper bed warmers and carefully layered bedding, all arranged in a strict order. Wool blankets were placed closest to the body, followed by heavier quilts to really trap the heat in. Applying this approach today means, prioritizing natural fibers and layering from breathable to dense, instead of just relying on one thick blanket. Clothing indoors, believe it or not, followed the same logic as dressing for cold weather fieldwork. People actually dressed indoors as if they were exposed to the elements, wearing wool waistcoats, long undergarments, and even neck coverings. The idea was to preserve heat at the core and the extremities. You can replicate this today by wearing fitted wool layers indoors rather than loose cotton clothing that honestly just leaks heat. Room usage was rotated according to thermal advantage. Families used south-facing rooms during the day and smaller interior rooms at night to minimize heat loss. Unused rooms were shut completely. A modern equivalent is consolidating daily activity into one insulated space and closing off the rest of the house. Thermal mass objects were deliberately positioned. Victorians placed ceramic jugs, stone slabs, and thick furniture near heat sources to absorb warmth and release it slowly. Today, placing dense objects near a stove or sunlit window helps stabilize indoor temperature without power. Meal timing and hot drinks were part of heat management. Soups, porridges and tea were consumed strategically to raise body temperature before long periods of rest. This remains effective today. internal heat production matters as much as ambient warmth. If this kind of grounded, usable history matters to you, subscribe to Warpaths of Europe. Share this with someone who respects old knowledge, and leave a comment telling us which era's survival methods you want uncovered next.